可以的吗？我很喜欢看到你们在这里。Okay, bye. How do you feel about your cousins? I have a deep interest in the role a cousin occupies because I didn't grow up with any. So come with me as I visit one of the cousins I didn't grow up with in Hefei, China. But how do I have a relationship as an adult with a cousin I've barely seen before? Turns out, very easily. We're going to take the train from Shanghai. Let's go. Cousins seem to be in that middle ground between friend and family member, connected by DNA but not as close as a sibling. People have good and bad stories about cousins, ranging from a best friend growing up to someone annoying you have to see for the rest of your life. But to me, they were always a novelty that other people had. This is my aunt coming to pick me up on her moped, and if you've seen my last video, you know I love mopeds. One of the best parts of visiting family is arriving immediately to a home-cooked meal. This is my cousin, by the way. She's my cousin on my dad's side. She got married last year, so after dinner at her parents', we went back to her and her husband's new place. They live further out in a newer area on the outskirts of the city, and here's the view from their apartment. This is the same view the next morning. I love when you can just hear people singing. My cousin has to work during the day, so I'm exploring the park you just saw on my own. This public park is built around the central lake, which is massive, and it's still in the city. It's right across the street from everyone living around it. I saw people fishing and urban camping, which is a newly popular thing to do in China, where you essentially set up a campsite with a tent to chill at, but just for the day. Okay, this is so cool. These workers put one end of the hose into the lake and are pumping lake water out to water the grass and trees. You might be wondering why I say I didn't grow up with cousins, but here I am visiting one. I didn't grow up with cousins because they were all across the world in China, and they couldn't come visit us due to visa and money limitations. Okay, back to my aunt and uncles for lunch. That's an exciting sentence for me to say. Fun fact, my grandpa installed this door himself and he put it in backwards. I like it though, it makes the apartment feel like ours. My aunt always likes to remind me that this is my home too. During holidays, my family would get together with other families like us, all of us little lone islands out at sea. So you could say I had pseudo-cousins, but eventually when we all moved away, the relationship faded away. There weren't presiding grandparents to keep us together, no obligation of shared blood. My cousin gets like 2.5 hours off for lunch, so she came here to eat and nap. I know 2.5 sounds like a glamorous break, but she has the same issues as young people everywhere, working long hours and feeling a lack of work-life balance. Time for post-lunch nap. Okay, my cousin is back at work now, so let's explore a much older park near the city center. As you can see, this park is much busier, much more built out. There's tons of traditional architecture everywhere, plenty of places to sit and chill or hang out with friends. These public parks are always so well maintained with tons of workers around. My cousin says a half jokey, half serious dream job for young people is to be one of the older security guard uncles at a park. You get to just stroll around all day and be relaxed, and most people ask you for directions. Honestly, it just shows that we're sick of the rat race everywhere. This is the first time I've stayed with my cousin for an extended period of time without other family around. Here's where the magic of a cousin comes in. Though we only know the broad strokes of each other's lives, I didn't feel awkward or like I was imposing on someone. We did, in a way, know each other deeply. I know her when we remember the way our grandpa was so active and strong when he was alive, when we compare notes and cackle over the way both our fathers arrive hours early to everything, how they make sure to tell us detailed directions that we can look up ourselves online, the way that our third uncle is somehow so oppositely chaotic. I never felt like I was imposing on her, and she treated me like what is and always will be true, like family. You can get delivery anywhere in China, it seems, even in a park. China's advantage is sheer volume and scale of population, and getting food delivered costs nothing. No service or delivery fees, no tipping. Okay, so I had noticed these girls and wanted to go up to them to ask about the cute costumes they were wearing, but I was also nervous, so I walked past them and then stood by myself in a corner for a while working up the nerve to ask them if I could film. They were a bit confused at first, but then shyly happy to talk to me. 就是你们今天在这里穿这么漂亮的衣服是为了做什么的？
就自己拍着玩的。因为我们很喜欢这个角色，然后呢，就想出来穿这一身出来拍拍照，留个纪念。 游戏角色。
哦，哪一个游戏啊？
王者荣耀。这是普通大学生，这是偶尔的爱好。
I took a selfie with them before I left. I thought they were so sweet, and I love seeing people turn their interest into unapologetic creativity and fun. If you're used to Western norms, you may not understand the culture of parks in China. People sing and dance and practice instruments in public. These people aren't busking, and they're not doing it to be famous. The point isn't to be an expert at it, it's to purely enjoy doing it. And the social norm is not to care whether anyone is good or bad. The norm is to find an area to do your own thing. My cousin picked me up after work to grab dinner. We made a quick pit stop to charge her car, and I finally got to see a battery changing station that I'd heard about. This electric vehicle brand allows you to swap your entire drained battery out for a charged one instead of waiting for it to charge. In all cities, you'll find bustling plazas and shopping pedestrian streets everywhere. Unlike in the States, where if you're out late past like 9 p.m., it's mostly young people partying, in China, the streets stay busy till much later, filled with people of all ages, from children to the elderly. There's ye xiao, which is basically eating late at night with your friends, and by later, I mean like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., usually on these little plastic tables placed all over the sidewalks and streets. I'm definitely not as close to the other cousins I reconnected with on this trip. They all took me around and took care of me while I was with them, but I definitely have the best bond with this cousin. She's a professor of law and talks a mile a minute. She has lots and lots and lots to say, and she uses academic language that I can't always keep up with as someone who is fluent only conversationally, but not formally. She can switch between happy-go-lucky and menacing at the drop of a hat, which I think is so fun. Always so many cute shop dogs. Here's us trying out their little drone. In a previous video, I saw drones carrying bamboo down steep mountains, and in the recent disastrous flooding in China, large drones were actually saving stranded people. Drones are pretty strictly monitored in China, and they aren't actually approved to carry humans, but people were apparently just covering the DJI logos and doing it anyway, and nobody cared. There was even a cat stranded in the floodwaters that was saved using a basket attached to a drone. Tons of people volunteered to fly their drones to bring in supplies and rescue personnel, and DJI announced free repairs for all drones used in rescue efforts. Another beautiful morning. Today my uncle is taking me to the hospital to see a dermatologist. My cousin booked me this appointment the night before online, where we could look at all the bios of the doctors and choose one with open appointments. Big shock to my American living self, which is used to needing referrals from a primary and extended wait times on approvals and complicated boxing with insurance. I did have to apply for a sort of ID card at the hospital, but after that I was good to go. As with all things, there are pros and cons, so I'm going to show you what it's like. You tell me if you'd prefer this healthcare system or what we have in the States. This is a public hospital, and any doctors you'd need to see are in the various buildings on the big campus. Once you find your floor, you just stand near the doctor's office door to wait for your turn, or even just in the office while the people before you go. People don't really care if others hear what they tell the doctor, and that's not weird, it's just the cultural norm. Health is seen straightforwardly, and there isn't shame about it. No one really cares about your specific problems, so who cares if they hear about it? Of course, if someone needs to take off their shirt or something, those waiting automatically go out the door so it can be shut while that happens. It's both informal and formal. For example, there was a little kid with itching behind us, so we let them go before us since their problems seemed more urgent. There's no nurse or assistant to do your intake, you talk to the doctor only. The hospital is big and crowded and loud. You may have to shuffle around to figure it out and wait for a while, but it did only take me a morning to directly see a specialist and then go downstairs to get my meds on the spot. It cost $3 to see the derm, and including the 2 different meds he prescribed, the total was about 12 USD. It's the weekend, so my cousin, her husband, and I went to this restaurant where we stuffed ourselves. The Chinese food you'll find outside of China probably represents like less than 1% of the variety of food you can find in China. We're walking off the food by going up this mountain to visit a temple. We saw these really fun electric carts with a robot that explains the history behind the statues you pass. The car honestly goes slower than you can walk, but the main point is it's fun and we wanted to. Here comes her husband with the car as we laugh at how slow he's going. I think at the end of the day, we're all just searching for connection. We're looking for people to relate to find someone with something in common that can make us go, oh my God, me too. We're creatures searching for other familiar creatures. It's hard as an adult. We become different people with very specific lives, more opinions on more topics. As kids, we're constantly with classmates in school, sharing the same life experiences, knowing the same people. But life as an adult can be isolating, especially if you're like me and move around a lot. We try to replicate environments where we have things in common to give us a boost into the beginnings of closeness, like hobby groups, rec sports, book clubs. It's effort. Blood can't make you close. The obvious statement here is that no one likely gets along with every person in their family, and not everyone is close to the family they're born into. But having extended family, having cousins, is inheriting the possibility of a relationship. Your parents have laid the foundations a generation before you by being born into the same family. They've placed the first bricks and then left it for you to build on. The obligation of family is one of the last few remnants of the dawn of humanity, something unchanged by the modern world. When I see a trait in my cousin I recognize in myself, I wonder how she arrived at the same place as I did while being halfway around the world. Was this something passed down to us? Did we both stumble into it by coincidence? I find myself reflected back in the way she is so opinionated, in the strong feelings she has about what's right and what's wrong, in the way she has a deep curiosity about what's happening to people in other parts of the world. In the hyper-independent world we live in the US, we like to feel that we don't owe anyone and that no one else owes us either. And there are certainly benefits in that. But even though my cousin and I don't know each other that well, I do feel like I owe her, and I feel like she owes me too, just because we're related. Maybe it has to do with the love we felt for the same grandparents. Maybe now that they're gone, we have each other left to cling to the memory of being their grandchildren. I like knowing that if there's anything she could help me with, I wouldn't feel bad about asking, and that should she come to need my help, I'd happily do it. There's no fear of being screwed over because after generations and generations of iteration, the two of us were born linked in this particular family. The owing of each other, I don't think that's a bad thing. And maybe you disagree, maybe you believe the opposite. That's okay. We need to move away from labeling things as just good or bad. Some things are okay to live out differently. My cousin keeps cat food in her car. She doesn't own any pets. She likes to have it on hand in case she runs into any cats outside. Though we both constantly talked about how jaded we've become about the world, about how we've lost trust in the way that life is set up, there's still this. There's still the little cat food tins stacked diligently in her car console. I like this in her. I wonder where she got it from. I'd be happy if she could see it in me, too.